because a lot of young leaders do these days.
And Adam Johns at The Athletic writes, basically that Ryan Poles knows there will be talented players for him at number 9. He wants the Bears to argue it a lot. He will split the Bears into 3 teams at Hallis Hall: offensive tackle, wide receiver, and defensive end. Each team will argue which position is best, quote, and they'll use factual information to kind of spit that out, Poles said at the owners' meetings. We'll have a debate in terms of what's more impactful for our football team, short-term and long-term. I'm looking forward to that.
Factual information. That's interesting.
So we have basically all chosen a group. It's not necessarily what we genuinely believe is the best thing, so it's one of my favorite patented debate exercises. But you chose to represent receivers.
I did.
The producers, Shane and Tanny, will represent the tackles, offensive tackle. And so I took whatever was left. So I am going to take pass rush / defensive end. Let's do this like we make a quick presentation.
Okay.
And then
open the conversation.
And then we open the conversation. We get to ask questions to the other person.
Okay.
To poke holes in it or whatever the case may be.
That sounds good.
All right. You want to go first, Spiegs, as wide receivers? Probably the most popular thing.
Yeah, sure, Danny. Look, they've got 2 very good veteran wide receivers. Got a true number 1 in DJ Moore and another true number 1 in Keenan Allen. This is all part of delivering this wonderful nest to the young quarterback. But likelihood is that Keenan Allen is just going to be here 1 year. We've learned that from the contract negotiations in L.A. And good teams, anyway, have a minimum of 3 wide receivers they trust. 3 wide receivers that get worked, sometimes more. In Green Bay, where we just watched Jordan Love, 6 different young wide receivers in either year 1 or year 2. And during the season, 5 different wide receivers had at one point led that team in catches. The Bears don't have a 3rd wide receiver right now that they trust. You trust Tyler Scott? I don't. I can't imagine that they do. They need one. And they have built up this roster, spending a lot of resources on defense and some resources on offense. The trade for Gerald Everett means they've got 2 veteran tight ends they can feel secure about. The acquisition of DeAndre Swift, running back, means now they've got 3 running backs in year 2 or beyond that they can feel good about. They need a young wide receiver, somebody that can develop chemistry with Caleb Williams that can last a long time. And this young wide receiver comes in without the pressure to be a number 1 on a playoff, a playoff hopeful. Is it a bit of an indulgent pick? Yeah, but this is the time that you do it. Right the hell now, and you're in a position to do it. Any of the top 3 wide receivers, if they drop to 9, it's a no-brainer. If not, they're somewhere for me. Whether it's a trade down or whether you acquire a pick in the 2nd round and you've got your eyes on somebody. But to me, this is the year you spend a big asset on a wide receiver.
The first thing that I would ask is, with Shane Waldron here, he was in Seattle when they had Lockett and DK Metcalf, and then they drafted Jackson Smith in Jigba.
That shows you they need the 3rd.
But it wasn't that productive. Are there enough balls to go around to make it worth the 9th overall pick?
They're still just doing the 1 ball this year, right, Tanny?
They're still just playing with 1 ball. Yeah.
I think that's part of Tanny's notes later.
Spiegs' retort should always be in this scenario, your guy Caleb Williams can figure it out. That should be the answer to every question he asks.
That's
you.
good. That's good advice.
Okay, all right.
He's so
That's
great, he'll
excellent
figure
advice.
it out.
All right, fair enough.
I'm not worried about if there's enough balls to go around, Danny. First of all,
I mean, I think this is part of the exercise.
Yeah, sure.
Poles wants there to be debate. He wants us to poke holes in the argument.
Sure. First of all, your guy Caleb Williams can figure it out.
Okay.
Second of all, if they've got a thank you, man. Thank you. If they've got a productive offense, then look, who cares if some of the targets are down? You get a grumpy wide receiver who wishes he was targeted more. Welcome to the NFL. And the rookie that they get should know that once Keenan Allen leaves, it'll be him that's being asked to step up. I don't think that's going to be an issue.
Anything from you guys on the cross-examination of the wide receiver presentation?
Yeah, I was going to go the direction that you went. I can't remember who said it when Shane Waldron came over here. Didn't somebody say, if you're a wide receiver on the Bears staff, get out and find a new job? Or were they saying that about Greg Roman? Am I confusing the 2?
I don't believe they said that about Waldron.
Well, we got the good luck to y'all from
Jackson Smith.
And Jigba. Yeah, but we also got the other thing, too. I remember that being a thing.
Yeah, you remember
that, Greg
right?
Roman knows what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, no holes necessarily.
All right.
No.
All right.
There's no bad pick at 9.
That takes away the exercise.
Second quarterback.
Yeah.
Let's not do a Robert Griffin III thing.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins.
No, I
Cousins.
wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Michael Penix would surprise us. All right, you guys.
Safety, I'd say.
Oh God.
You guys want?
Yeah, we liked him. Yeah.
We liked him. Best player on the board. Captain of the defense.
Offensive line.
You guys want us to make the offensive line presentation for the 9th pick?
Absolutely. Shane and Chris are here to make this argument here. I'll start, Shane, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please go for it.
So I tweeted this November 16th, 2020. Now, this was when it became evident that the last gasp of Matt Nagy wasn't going to work. Nick Foles was in, and I think this was the game where Nick Foles and Matt Nagy sort of got into that argument on the sidelines. It's like, who's running the show here? But either way, it was clear that Mitch was done, and this thing was not going to work, right? So I tweeted this. This team is going to be stuck in football hell until they realize they must build this team from the inside out. Your quarterback will never succeed with lack of continuity on the offensive line. So that's why we're here to make the case for Joe Alt. At least I'm making the case for Joe Alt.
That's correct.
I think Shane will as well.
Yes.
But I've been watching the Bears my whole life, and it seems like, over the years, no matter what quarterback comes in, today's the Jay Cutler trade anniversary day, by the way, but whatever quarterback comes in, they never have that offensive line that these guys are playing every week. There's first-round talent all over the place, and they're always just trying to piecemeal things together on the O-line for whatever quarterback. And it's always like, this guy's going to have to transcend a lot of mistakes made by his organization and a lot of bad players, a lot of hurt players around him. So for once, if they draft Caleb at 1, I would like Caleb to come into a situation where he doesn't have to transcend everyone in that way. We're hoping his talent on the field does transcend, but we're hoping he's not making up for mistakes or injuries or anything like that. So, and you take a look at, some of the other comps, you hear the Lions comp with the Bears, and look at their starters. 4 of their 5 on the offensive line were all first-round picks. Even their guard, who they just acquired from the Ravens, a Pro Bowler, Kevin Zeitler, he was a first-round pick as a guard, right? So they have their principles that they believe in. First-round talent on the offensive line, right? There are exceptions, and I'm not here to say that I don't think the Bears can win with Braxton Jones. He's done a great job generally for a 5th-round pick at left tackle. Didn't play as much as I would have liked to see him play last season. They can win with him, I think. But I think this is informed a lot by what Olin had to say was any position that you can upgrade clearly, I think you always have to consider that. And we asked him about left tackle and specifically. So, and with the Bears' current situation with Tevin Jenkins, I don't know if I could trust him to play every week. So if that means Braxton moves to guard, I don't know if he can do that. That's why I'm not an expert. None of us really are here are experts on the O-line. It's tough. It's tough to break this stuff down. That's why we have guys like Olin and Pat come on talk about that. So, I think Joe Alt's your guy. He comes from a good program in Notre Dame. He has the pedigree with his dad, John, who was a solid tackle for over a decade in the NFL. I think this guy is, we've had our can't miss tackles before. Gabe Karimi was one of them. So this is informed by just a lot of bad picks, but we're hopefully starting fresh with Ryan Poles, and we're not going to hold the other regime's mistakes against Ryan Poles. So if Joe Alt is there at 9, I'd find it hard to believe that the Bears don't take their shot at him.
The last time the Bears even had a franchise left tackle, someone that you associate with being a dominant force on the offensive line that can protect a quarterback, especially a young quarterback, those 2 guys were basically dead by the time they got to the Bears anyway, in Orlando Pace and Jason Peters. Jason Peters flat out said, I can't play anymore. I don't know how much I got left. I don't know about a whole lot. This is the time to let Ryan Poles flex that obvious big brain muscle of his that evaluates offensive linemen as well as he does. And I guess I can make the argument against myself that go ahead and let him use a later round pick on an offensive tackle and go ahead and take Brock Bowers or whomever at 9. But Charles Leno Jr., somebody named Blake Brockermeyer, Mike Gandy, Osam Mitchell, John Tate. These are names that are not inspiring for a franchise that has a corner of the NFL like the Bears do, for a franchise that is as respected. And if you don't do every single thing you can to make your young quarterback comfortable, this is where he finds the most pressure. Danny's guy, Caleb Williams, could figure it out. He'll get the ball to somebody, but he needs to have the protection. He needs to have the time, and Joe Alt is generational.
And one quick thing I had in my notes there I forgot to get to, but also with the Bears, it's like they're always trying to figure it out last minute. Like, you remember when they signed, I think it was Josh Sitton, back in 2018, right? They had to cut Robbie Gould to make the cap space to do that. And what happens? They lose the game on the double doink because they have to have Cody Parkey out there. Robbie Gould was still making kicks years after that. So they have to take away a strength in order to piece together that offensive line for Mitch in that season there. So that's like, if you have these first rounders that are there, they're cheap and generally they're younger, so they're starting every week for you. If you get the right guy, I think that's a huge part of it too, is you don't have to take resources away from other parts of your football team.
Mr. Parkins, would you like to poke holes in this, or shall I start?
You could begin, just to recap what the exercise is. Ryan Poles is dividing his coaches and scouts to make cases for edge rusher, offensive tackle, and receiver. We are doing the same exercise. Shane and Tanny just did offensive tackle. Go ahead.
I would argue, Shane and Chris, as you've been digging into the draft, don't you think that you have an asset already in Braxton Jones who is thoroughly capable of playing that position, and you can use the asset that you have for a position where you have much less depth, and you could argue is just as important in wide receiver?
Wouldn't you argue that you had an asset already in Justin Fields before a very generational, maybe best quarterback could go down as one of the best quarterbacks of all time became available?
I would, but wouldn't you also argue, sir, that quarterback is the most important and thoroughly unique position in the NFL that defies comparison?
Well, you're gonna have to pay Braxton Jones soon, and he's been playing at left tackle, so he's gonna want left tackle money. So what do you do about that? And like, if you have a chance to align your quarterback and your left tackle, who Braxton Jones is not going to be a Hall of Famer at left tackle. I think we can all say that now. He's a solid player, but you could be getting a Hall of Famer in Joe Alt here. And I'm not a scout of these O-line guys, but typically guys that go that high in the first round, they're left tackle, they're there for a long time, 10 years, 15 years, and ideally with your organization, with your quarterback the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best argument, and they both talked about it a lot, is if you're going to invest in my guy Caleb Williams, protect him. Right? It's like spending premium assets to protect him, pairing it with Darnell Wright.
Isn't there a school of thought that says Caleb ought to be able to block for himself?
Right. Why can't he?
He's Pat Mahomes, right? He can just scramble around.
Yeah, he's going to. He's going to.
Doesn't he have 3 arms? I thought I heard he could throw from 3 different arms.
Just one rocket arm. Golden arm.
One of those arms is pink, though. Watch out.
So your girl loves him. I can't believe you said that.
I can't believe you said it. All right, should I make the case for edge rusher? Then we can let the text line decide who made the most compelling case?
Yeah, please, Mr. Parkins, edge rusher.
All right. At left tackle, you have good, and you have an opportunity to go for great. At wide receiver, you already said it's a little gluttonous because you have DJ Moore and Cole Kmet and Everett, and now Keenan Allen. Yes, you don't have the long-term answer opposite DJ Moore, but you've got a lot of pass catchers that you like. At edge rusher opposite Montez Sweat, you have no one. It is the true biggest need on the team at a premium position. You were 31st in the NFL in sacks last season, even with the addition of Montez Sweat. And how does Montez Sweat get better? By having a real asset on the other side of the line. It's complementary football. If you have to keep more guys in to chip help and max protect, that helps your coverage get better. It's the one piece of the defense that you don't have left. You're adding to this offense Keenan Allen and DeAndre Swift and Gerald Everett and Caleb Williams. On defense this year, what have you added of consequence? You've retained, you've gotten healthier, but you've lost Eddie Jackson. You need to continue to upgrade and add, and I would make the argument that you are one piece away. Offense is going to be a build. It's a rookie quarterback. You got a young offensive line. You got 3 offensive linemen on rookie contracts. You're going to need to add. Keenan Allen's not going to be there forever, but you're going to be constantly adding around Caleb Williams for the next decade. But on defense, with a defensive head coach, you are one piece away, the final piece, from locking in a great defense. And as we rank all of these players on the board, how many blue players do we have under rookie contracts on defense? The answer is 0. Montez Sweat, blue player, got paid. Jalen Johnson got paid. Tremaine Edmonds got paid. You got nice players that we like, Kyler Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson, Jaquan Brisker. They're not elite cornerstone blue players on our board. So we have one on offense in Darnell Wright. We're about to have another one on offense in Caleb Williams. We have 0 blue players on the defensive side of the ball so we can get younger. It could be our final piece to dominance. It is clearly our biggest need. And if you add one more piece there, hey, everyone always says defense wins championships. What's the best way to help a young quarterback? By giving him a truly great defense.
He really had me for a good long while. It was impassioned. And then I heard the absolute BS tone with which he was delivering some of this
What
stuff.
an artist. He deliberately chooses the topic that he can just be condescending about on the back end. It's like when he asked Nagy about, a lot of guys, they want to run the football, fair weather, idiots, and he loves taking a shot at running the ball in defense.
They say defense wins championships.
Everything before that final Starkey line was a pretty compelling case.
It was pretty good.
Everything before that.
Yeah.
And last thing. You likely at 9 could get the first defensive player off the board. So you could get the best defensive player in the draft at 9. That was the last piece.
That to me is a massive, massive deal. When it really comes down to what they'll do, I mean, if the top 3 wide receivers are gone and they really like Dallas Turner or Jared Verse, and it's the first defensive player coming off the board, then go ahead, Ryan Poles. I'll trust you on it and plug in that thing. Because to me, it's either spot. Wide receiver and defensive end, you need a young and cheap one that you can grow with along with your quarterback.
And now that this divisive debate is over with, I think we can all say we're best guy on the board, right? That's our philosophy. So that's why if the edge rusher is the best guy on the board, then take him. Don't reach for a guy just because you feel like you have a need at that position. So I think we're all best guy on the board people. Right?
I think. Well, one more thing on that though, because the Bears are rich with assets right now. Not necessarily draft picks, but they are rich with talent. This was already a pretty decent team last year, and they have an All-Pro corner in Jalen Johnson and someone who looks like he could be an All-Pro in Tyreek Stevenson. That makes the edge rusher position less valuable than anything else. When your corners are giving your defensive line time to break through, when they're not getting their ass beat, I don't need another stellar edge if I know Montez Sweat's on the other side.
Still 31st in sacks last year, though.
I get it.
So it didn't play out. Now, there were injuries at different points in the secondary, but there are always going to be. Listen, I mean, now that the exercise is over, best player available, Tanny, I'm with you at one of these 3 positions, but I probably would power rank it offensive. I just think you're spending more money on the defensive side of the ball. So giving Caleb the asset to grow with on the exact same timeline, whether it's pass protection or pass catcher, that would probably be my ranking. But I do believe what I said about it is the biggest need. Like the biggest, because Braxton Jones is solid and third receiver is a luxury. The biggest pure need
is edge rusher.
It is an edge rusher opposite Montez Sweat. And I do actually genuinely believe that.
And I'd been thinking that they could go free agent for a 1-year deal, which so many of them do, those edge rushers at this point, to make sure you've got someone of consequence on the other side of Montez Sweat. But there's very few players of consequence out there. Jadeveon Clowney has signed. I mean, you're looking at Carl Lawson and Randy Gregory and Yannick Ngakoue and the 37-year-old Calais Campbell. Jerry Hughes, the former Bill. I wonder how the new D coordinator feels about him, So you've got, Shaq Lawson, who was just out there. I mean, these are not exciting names to think about in most of their age 29 to 32 season or so.
Yep. It's a fun exercise. I love that Poles does it. I want to know more about it. I want to know if he makes these guys debate things that they don't believe in, or if he makes them like, hey, actually, who thinks it should be receiver? You go and you sit at this table.
Yeah.
Who you think it should be? And then it also operates as like a census. There's 16 scouts and coaches at receiver.
Sure.
There's 4 at defensive end, and there's 7 at offensive tackle.
And you're sending them out to come up with the factual information. I'm sure whoever's doing wide receivers like, let's look at total targets for the third wide receiver on some of these great teams. Things like that.
Well, yeah, and I didn't mention it in like the rebuttal of what Tanny and Shane put together, but like, is it just for Joe Alt, or is it for the position of tackle? Because the kid from Washington, who we talked about last week, people really like, but he might have to be a guard.
Troy Fatanu.
Yeah,
right?
And then Olu Fashanu, the kid from Penn State. He was Caleb's teammate in high school. People think he's a left tackle. But so, like, because I do think, like, if Malik Neighbors is there, I think you run to the podium. If Joe Alt is there, I think you run to the podium. But it gets a little bit dicier if it's the second offense, the second left tackle, or if it's the second edge rusher. Like, you know what I mean? If Turner's off the board.
I do think if it's Roma Dinze, if it's the third wide receiver, you run to the podium.
I tend to also.
I won't speak for Tandy, but it is Joe Alt for me.
Joe Alt or bust.
It's Joe Alt or nobody.
Or a different position.
But then it's like Brock Bowers. Like, hearing what they were saying about Brock Bowers last week, I love the George Kittle comp more than you can ever imagine.
Yeah.
I love that comp.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where we don't have the information that they have, and we don't have the area scouts. We have a lot of resources, Shane and I, when we're digging in.
Yeah,
but we don't have the guys that really know the difference between Alt and Fashanu. And that's the thing. Your guy Chop Robinson was saying that's why he's so good, because he played against the Penn State tackle every day in practice. But then well, why don't you have any sacks? When the game started, you know what I mean? So,
yeah. I do think, though, that Odyssey Auto Invest, I think we should have more area scouts.
Expand our budget.
Yeah, right? I mean, we don't have anybody in the Pac-12. We got to make phone calls and stuff. It's ridiculous. We should have somebody on staff.
These guys are willing to cover L.A., Scottsdale,
Vegas. We'll go anywhere.
Yeah.
We made that very clear this year with our trip to Grand Rapids last weekend, if you remember that one. Yeah. I didn't want to go, but we will go anywhere to look.
We're going somewhere later in the month, as a matter of fact.
We are.
I'm excited about it.
Going to Detroit.
Take him to Detroit.
We got to be there for the day that the commissioner announces Caleb Williams to the Bears. We're going to be there broadcasting on Thursday and Friday.
We'll be live on the air after the Cubs game on that Thursday. We will pick it up and we will carry you deep into the first round, certainly when the Bears pick their second choice.
Yeah, we'll be on the air at least through their second pick. If they trade down, we'll figure it out. But we're going to be on probably through, midway through the first round after Cubs on Thursday. Shane will be working the red carpet at the site of the draft. We'll be broadcasting at a Buffalo Wild Wings, right
downtown,
right next to the draft party, in the midst of the draft party
in Indy,
in Detroit. It's more of Detroit than
Indy. I already booked my ticket to Indy.
Yeah, you go to Indy. I'll go to the B-Dubs in Detroit.
Let's go to Spiegs with a report live from Indianapolis. Well, still nothing going on here,
Not
guys.
much going on over here.
They're still buzzing about the combine from 3 months ago.
Yeah, the AAA Indians are playing right down the street, but not a lot of football stuff. Back to you. Team coverage.
Hey, I almost sent this to Lambeau, but that's for next year's draft.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, no, we decided that we're going to go to the site of this year's draft.
They won't have a first-round pick next year. They're going to mortgage everything.
Oh, wow.
Marvin Harrison.
God, that'd be incredible.
Junior.
I hope they don't. But, I mean, dude, we're not doing pole position next year when they have the 26th pick in the draft.
Oh, God. Oh, don't mush it.
This is it. Haters of poles position, enjoy yourself.
This should be the last one.
This month.
Yeah. Not this edition.
Not today.
No, April 25th. No, 24th.
Yeah.
Because the draft is the 25th, but there's a Cubs Day game. April 24th should be the last. That's when we got to do the mock draft, when we got to get Ice Cube to come back. No pressure. April 24th.
I think we should set the Open on fire on the last day.
But the Raiders aren't picking in the top.
No, they're not.
Oh, no, they are. Right?
I don't think so.
Yeah. NFL draft, right?
All right, I'll call Cube. No worries, guys.
Yeah, you'll get Cube on.
Just talk to Cube.
Broker that Caitlin Clark thing, too, while you're at it.
How about that?
Oh, yeah, big three. What did he offer?
$5 million for 8 games, possibly 10.
Yeah, you're right. They're not.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah,
I know that. I dig into
They
the
got
draft.
the 13th pick. So you got to find a A-list Ice Cube level celebrity who will pick for either Washington, New England, Arizona, the Chargers, the Giants, the Titans, or the Falcons.
Dan Snyder, isn't he the racist one?
That's
for Washington.
Yeah, he is. Well, that's more.
Wait, the Nickelodeon guy?
No, no.
I'm just going to allegedly the entire segment.
I noticed you guys are avoiding talking about who won that debate because I only see one text from the 217 that said Shane and Tanny win, not even close, and no one else said anything.
No, there's the one guy who said that Danny made the most sense. So Danny is spot on. Edge is the position that can be immediately transformational. But I think Danny sent that text.